Kurtis Campbell,
Callum, the future, Connor!
Oh! What a showcase performance from Connor Walsh!
Stapleton gets the victory, the TKO finish in his return to the lovely. I know Rutherford will be happy with that one. Moves to 1-0.
I want to be as active as possible. I've got places to go, you feel me? Let's go.
Hello everybody, welcome to the post-fight show here after FCC 41 Full Contact Contender. It went down here in the Bolton Stadium. We're packing it all away. It was a historic return for us. We've not been here for a few years, Jason, but we also brought back some legendary fighters from the UK scene for a legendary return to this stadium. Great show. Brilliant 6-fight card on UFC Fight Pass. The champion defended his title. Top prospects picked up Ws. Overall, what do you think of the show?
Incredible from top to bottom. You're talking about some prospects that really did show off and really perform in a way that they needed to for this card. We have guys that we're talking about as potential contender series future, debutants looking to go onto that show this summer, and they certainly performed in that way. And then you saw the people that are the up and coming, like the Connor Walshes, that are just on the cusp of a title shot, potentially earn one tonight. So from top to bottom, we're talking about a showcase of a card that saw some showcase talents really show off. So the word show is the word for this one. It was a great show.
It was a great show, I have to agree with you that. So let's start with the main event. Obviously, the majority of people here to see the Pink Panther, Kurtis Campbell, the featherweight champion, defend his title. He did that tonight. We thought this was going to be maybe the toughest test he's had so far. Against Lima, it was the fight of the year. Tonight, it was kind of a solid whitewash performance really from the champion. He dominated the striking, and then he just continually took his opponent down, landed heavy shots with the ground and pound, and got the choke. In the finishing sequence was absolutely insane. I need to go back and watch it, but the actual transition for him to end up in the back in that position is very high level jiu-jitsu, but also the awareness to just meet the scramble speed of someone like Valerio, who's so fast and has caught people in submissions because of his quick transitions. What did you think of the finish and the performance of the champion?
I think it might be the performance of the night. That's something that, is heavily contested on a card like this where you saw so many great finishes. I mean, his teammate Connor Walsh also looked fantastic, but the reason I would give this the performance of the night is he just made it look easy, and this is what he does. And not to say Connor Walsh didn't, but he got it done so quickly. He also did it in the very style that he was told he was mediocre in. Valerio came out saying, oh yeah, his grappling is mediocre, I don't think he's too good on the striking, and he just kind of got dog walked in this fight. It was a fantastic performance. He looks like every bit the prospect he's been made out to be, what UFC Fight Pass is laid out to be. He's been on UFC.com as a prospect to watch. We've all been talking about him, singing his praises. He is the face of the promotion, there is no doubt about it, but he is also somebody who looks like could be on the contender series as soon as this summer. He has certainly earned that opportunity. So yeah, performance of the night is my take for it.
I would not disagree with you on performance of the night for that one. Moves to 7-0 now. Like we said, we thought it was going to be a test. What I really liked about it is we had the countdown. We saw another side to Kurtis Campbell. Valerio brought the trash talk out of him, and Kurtis was just matter of fact, I'm going to beat him. He's a bum. And he went in there and it was a dominant performance. So he came in confident. Talked and spoke confidently, and that's what people want to see as well. They want to see people put it out there, feel it. They want to see entertainment, and I think the Pink Panther, again, that's another top crowning performance. Sold out place, everyone's on their feet, dominant victory, finish, title defense, and a bit of trash talk as well. So couldn't really gone any better. Let's talk about the co-main event, of course, as well. A fantastic performance from another top talent, Callum Connor. Everyone's been talking about this kid. He's coming out of a really, really credentialed gym. He's got so many people pouring talent into him, sparring partner for Lerone Murphy. FCC set him up with a really tough test tonight. Chris Stringer is a veteran. He's been doing this basically since Callum Connor was born. And that's not even a joke to say. That's literally true. And we spoke to Chris Stringer before and after. He was confident and humble after the defeat. The two of them really met at such an awesome time, I feel like, because Chris is right at the end of his career, but he's had so many legendary fights, inspired so many people, and came in there and was the most competitive against Callum Connor that we've seen of anybody from this kid, because Callum Connor's walked through people. I love that we saw some adversity that Callum Connor had to go through. What did you think, early on in that fight where Chris was being really, really competitive with Callum?
I think what you have a temptation when you watch some of these guys that come up and look just fantastic. They're taking on often guys that are also in the regional scene that are really well known where they're coming from, but not necessarily where they end up going. So when they come here, people are like, oh, is that even a good test? They start to get skeptical. But then you see a guy who's a real pioneer like Chris Stringer come in and showcase that he is there not to lose, that he is there to take over. And we had seen that in some of the other fights that you had called yourself, that he still has knockout power, still has the ability to finish it. And what ended up happening is we saw more from Callum Connor, I think, in a more interesting and compelling way, because we saw him kind of like, there was almost a look in his eyes at the end of that round one. Can I do this? Can I really do this? And you saw him overcome that and say, yeah, definitely. And emphatically, he did so. He proved that to be the case. That confidence was well-founded. You saw it in the second round. You saw it in the third round. He really, truly took over. The future is here. The future could be headed to the Contender Series as soon as this summer. Absolutely spectacular. That's my fight of the night. They told us this was going to be fight of the night, and it was. They were literally telling us all along, and they delivered. Amazing fight.
Yeah, can't disagree with you. There was fight of the night indeed. And you also mentioned the UFC. I think the UFC will look at that fight, see him take on someone more experienced, physically I think a bit more stronger and maybe more mature, because Connor's still got growing to do. He's not fully at that point, I think, where he's built out into his frame, and we'll see what happens. But he had to battle against that tonight. It was part of the narrative of the fight, and he navigated it so well. That's a style matchup he's going to deal with later, with people who will not give him the space to operate as a striker, and he had to, like you said, make the adjustments, navigate through, and also believe in his game plan, because ultimately the calf kicks in the third round were really what helped him win that round, and they only worked because he had to commit to them the whole fight, not get deterred, keep putting money in the bank, and it paid off for him. So yeah, I think it was a great performance. But he probably wants to get one more win, I would think, before they come calling. But do you think that's the kind of victory that the UFC would take notice of and commend over a veteran like that?
We could see him fight on the June card. Usually August is around the time that the Contender Series fight happens, but it feels like icing on the cake at that moment. But it also shows you that, yes, he can handle being the nail for a little bit, come back, handle adversity, come out of it looking better. Fantastic, yeah.
Another Connor we have to talk about, Connor Walsh, the fly catcher, 3-0 before tonight, now 4-0, another dominant performance. I'm never really sure what to expect from Walsh, because he can do so many things, and really he kind of plays off what his opponent is going to do, because it almost feels like he wants to stop them from doing what they love to do. We saw some great ground and pound early with the takedowns, but the striking clinic towards the end of the finish from Walsh. And he came over, to us and said, should have got that done a bit earlier. But it's like, well, I thought the fact that he was so patient and methodical and so precise with everything and didn't expose himself and put himself in danger, I thought that was really, really a veteran move for a guy that's now 4-0. Still super young, 21 years old, I think. So he probably maybe look at some of his other fights and be more happy. But I think maybe retrospectively, he'll look at that one and see it for what it is. Like him, again, leveling up, getting to the point where people can't even really touch him and hurt him anymore. And he can relax in there and take his time. He's not stressed. I have to finish this fight. He knows he was winning the fight, and he knew he was going to get the finish. It was just a matter of time.
Yeah, I mean, for my taste, I think I even said it to him. I got a chance to see him as we got out of there, and I was like, I saw you shaking your head, and I know what you said to us, but the truth is that was a pillar-to-post beating. That was a symphony of violence, whatever weird, analogy you want to use. But the truth is he just absolutely took it to Sven. He was a very dangerous fighter that can knock you out. Very, very fast hands, incredibly fast hands. Can get it done in so many different ways. But it was just, I don't know, to me, it was like a slaughter, just the way that he did that. I told him, watch it back. You'll be very proud of that fight, because it was, I don't know, it was a showcase. It truly was a showcase. He is undeniable. If a title's not next, it's one more fight. He's right there. And he's maybe 1 or 2 years behind Kurtis Campbell at this point, following their kind of age gap that they have between them. He's fallen right in lockstep behind him. KC Fight Base, I mean, the way they've taken over this region of the country is just I don't know. It's breathtaking to watch. It truly is.
Clean sweep for that team tonight. KC Fight, based on some of the amateur fights as well. They really are performing very well. And yeah, if you haven't been up to check the gym and you're getting into the sport, that might be somewhere you want to think about training. KC Fight Base was great. Speaking about some more legends returning to this card, of course, we had the return of 50 Cal, Martin Stapleton. He came to us at FCC 3. He was the first ever pro fighter that FCC put on. I was talking to Adam, the president, the other day, and he was saying, I felt really proud when I put that fight on. Like, we're a proper promotion. And like, here he is now coming back to this massive crowd, massive pop in the house for Martin Stapleton. Like, 50 Cal is a legend, hadn't fought since 2018. And he came out and looked exactly like he hasn't missed a beat, really, in terms of the same skill set, the same tactics. And he just kept picking away at his guy. I was really impressed with him tonight, and I think he really continues to inspire people, because this is a guy who people saw go to America and be on The Ultimate Fighter, and he's still putting on performances and showing that, like, it's never too late. And still, there's still kids that he trains and looks up to him. So I thought it was a great return.
Well, yeah, I think the question coming into this is, what does he even have to prove? But he performs like he had something to prove. It was interesting. Maybe he wanted to prove something to himself. Maybe he wanted to prove to, everybody that, age is just a number when it comes to his talent and his level of abilities, because he looks so fresh. His ability, his timing, the amount of shots that he slipped, was just getting out of the way of, his countering. He just looked phenomenal. And it was about all that Lima could take, and it was amazing that Lima even made it that far, to be quite honest with you. It was just a showcase performance, and yeah, the question is, what does he want to do? Because it looks like he can do quite a bit more, and he did it in front of a home crowd that was very appreciative, and they definitely got their money's worth out of the whole card, but they got it specifically out of him as well.
Yeah, I would like to know, what the Fight Pass numbers were for this card, because you had a couple of legends, a couple of future stars. I'm sure there were people all over the country tuning in to see these guys who have fought internationally and on platforms like the UFC. These guys are veterans of the sport. Let's talk about as well, before we go, Jordan Rutherford, okay? A guy who had a phenomenal year, perhaps the best year I've certainly ever heard of, winning 5 titles in different promotions across the UK, made his pro debut here tonight. He's already 31, that's not necessarily old, but I think he realizes that, he has got maybe less time than other people who are turning pro and picking up wins, especially because it was his pro debut. What a way to get things started with a first round finish. Talk about not wanting to waste any time. He could probably fight in 2 weeks, right? So Rutherford, he said on the mic afterwards, he wants a quick turnaround. I thought it was a very clinical, clean performance, a showcase of everything he's good at. He did face some adversity a little bit. He got taken down, but he swept. And really, we're seeing Rutherford go from being a long Muay Thai striker to a very dangerous mixed martial artist.
And that's what you want to see in these performances. You want to see them tested in an area you haven't quite ever seen before. So what does it look like when you got a BJJ, guy who's been all over the world and, fought other BJJ guys and destroyed them and, really shown a proficiency on the ground that is truly scary and contest him. And we had seen that a bit in his amateur career, but it was just a unique, different kind of angle, a different lens, a different perspective on it. And he showed out in so many different ways, really proved why he was so heavily anticipated as a pro debut, why everybody was so high on his amateur career, and he came out and he gave everybody a real show, and it was frankly all that Matos can handle. We love the guy. We talked to him yesterday, the nicest dude on the planet, really came out game, fiercely staring him down. I mean, it was intense watching the two stare at each other until the fight started. But Jordan is he's the real deal. That's what he is. And at 1-0, he feels like much more than that already because of that amateur career and what he did tonight.
I think there's just something about Rutherford when he comes out that there's an aura about him. And I mentioned that he's 31. We're talking about the Contender series, and guys like Dana White have said, if you're older, I'm not interested. But that is not always the case. It takes special people. And there's something about him, the adversity he's been through in his life, the insane achievements he's got at amateur, that could just be that special kind of someone that does still break it and make it to the UFC if he keeps winning, because he has such a good story and he's so happy to be here. I think he's a really inspirational dude. And when you speak to him, he's the nicest man ever. So all props to him for getting a fantastic win here tonight.
One more note on that as well. How many Scottish stars does the UFC currently have? that is an area that is begging for something like that. The idea that because he's 31 and he's putting on performances like this, oh, maybe we'll pass him up. Like, no, dude, you need some stars in that region. This guy is hand delivering that to you in his style and his charisma and the way he talks and the way he performs, his ability all on the ground, on the feet. This is something that Scotland will get behind, that this region will get behind. I think it's a huge, huge deal what he is doing. And yeah, I think it'll inspire a lot of future talent from that region as well. So it's not just about him. It's just not just about the now. It's about the future as well. Look phenomenal.
Opening up the card, of course, we saw Brooklyn Thomas making his pro debut after a pretty well-established amateur career. I thought he looked like way beyond his first pro fight. He was confident, authoritative in the way he dispatched his opponent, and he looked like he was ready to fight later on tonight. So in terms of another guy jumping up to the pro scene, that's a great guy to have around FCC as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to 12 Gauge MMA. Fantastic camp, fantastic fighters coming out of there, proving that he is one of their elite amongst those ranks. Looked phenomenal going in there. Very offensive wrestling, just absolutely smothering performance. And what else can you say? You got to be really happy with a pro debut like that. And yeah, a great way to start off the card from top to bottom. This is what we saw tonight. Prospects galore, talents cemented. We saw as well as the veterans showing out, even if they didn't win on all of them with Stringer, but some of them did with Stapleton. Just great performances across the board. Just such a good card.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, that's the first card of the year. I don't know how we're going to top it, but you bet we will. FCC 42 is coming up in June, so thank you for coming and tuning into this one. If you didn't catch the show, of course, all of it is available on UFC Fight Pass, the main card. You can watch that. Definitely go back and see it. Some top talents. If you're from the UK and an MMA fan, you 100% have to watch Full Contact Contender, because this is where the future of the sport is going. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much, Jason, of course, myself, Alex Richings, all of the team here at FCC MMA. We will be back in June for FCC 42. See you there.